Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that again towards the end of time, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu mentions in the hadith that a time will come upon my ummah when though there will be abundance of Qur'an, that there will be so many people who will be able to recite the Qur'an in many different ways. There will be the best of Qur'an, but there will be a shortage of fuqaha. There will be a shortage of those people who will actually understand the Qur'an, who will actually understand the deen. People will be able to recite beautifully, but they will not be able to tell you what they are reciting. They will not be able to tell you what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding in the Qur'an. They will not be able to give you an answer to one of your problems which is related to Sharia. Qurra will be many, but fuqaha will be so few. And those people who will be reciting the Qur'an, they will not have iman in their hearts. They will just have these beautiful voices, and they will be reciting for the sake of show and for the sake of showing people that, look at me, I can recite so beautifully. They will be doing this for the sake of amusement of other people. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that the words of the Qur'an will not go beyond their throats, meaning that they will not affect their hearts, because their hearts will be so corrupt. They will be able to recite, but that recitation will bear no fruit, because they will not understand the Qur'an, and due to corruption, due to the reasons why they will be reciting, which will be evil reasons, for the sake of seeking dunya, for the sake of seeking the pleasure of people, for the sake of getting fame in this dunya, this Qur'an will not go to their heart and will not affect their heart, and it will not have an impact on their heart. Imam Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Qiyamah will come when it will be regarded as a shame to act upon Quranic injunctions. When it will be regarded as a shame to act upon Quranic injunctions. A time which we find our youngsters in. A time which we find our young people in. That to act upon Quranic injunctions for the sake of our friends who see what you are doing as shameful, look down on you, we leave the acting on the Quran. We leave our salah because our friends will say, what are you doing? You are too Islamic. When we go to the bank and ask them for an interest-free account, they will be like, what are you talking about? This is too Islamic, earn some interest. When to act upon Quranic injunctions will be counted shameful, that even Muslims will be telling each other that don't do this here, I find it shameful because so and so is watching. So many people, when they are in safar, when they stop at the services, it is time for salah, will not perform salah. There are too many people watching. Astaghfirullah. Why? Because it is a sign of Qiyamah, that the weakness of Iman will be so much so that even the Muslims will be thinking, I find it a bit shameful to perform my salah in front of so and so and so and so. Astaghfirullah. When it comes to the sunnah, when it comes to salah, we raise our trousers above the ankles. MashaAllah, for salah we do it. And after salah, we roll them back down. When we go to our offices and when we go to our workplaces, we roll them back down. What will my boss say? That we are, it will look funny if I have my trousers above the ankles, and it will be shameful. They will say, what are you doing in the office like this? So this is the time that we find ourselves in. That we do things when we are around our own people, but when we are out in the non-Muslim community, we will not do things because we find it shameful. Whereas this is the same reason, which is the contrary reason why Islam spread. That the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'een, never let go of the Quran and the Sunnah when they went out to the lands of the non-Muslims. They practiced the Sunnah. I can't recall the name of the Sahabi, but when they were invited to a dinner where the non-Muslim nations, big leaders were there, so two Sahaba went to this dinner, and when they were eating, one Sahabi dropped a morsel of food and he picked it up. So the fellow Sahabi friend nudged him and said, don't do this here. They find it, they don't like these kind of things. They think that you are a very low person. So he turned back to his Sahaba and he looked up to all the people who are on the dining table, and he said, should I leave the Sunnah of my Habib Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for these fools? He said it to their faces, that should I leave the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sunnah that when a morsel of food drops, you should pick it up, clean the dirt off it and eat it, so that you do not miss out the barakah which is in that food. Should I leave that Sunnah for the sake of these fools? But subhanallah, we find ourselves in a very, very difficult situation where we leave the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the sake that, other people don't look down on us. Other people don't think, oh, he is too Islamic, he is too strict on his religion. In the hadith, Abu Musa al-Ashari also mentions that the Qiyamah, before the time of Qiyamah, that when Islam will become a strange religion again. That in the deen bada'a ghariban, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned that this deen al-Islam, it began as a strange religion. Because at the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given nubuwah, everybody was so into practicing idol worshipping that the oneness of Allah was something which was very strange to them. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned that believe La ilaha illallah, they said, what are you talking about? This is something very strange that we do not know of, and nor do our forefathers know of. It is something very new. So the same way that Islam began as something very strange, it will return to a strange religion. That when the Muslims will stop practicing their religion, and those who will be practicing, the people who are not practicing will say, what are you doing? This is strange. Ya akhi, what are you doing? You're standing there doing all these actions. What are you doing? This is strange. So this deen, al-Islam, will become gharib. It will become strange. People will be like, what is this? This is a new thing. It is an innovation. It is not something that has existed from before. Because, and what will be the reason for this? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, "Inna Allah la yantazi'u al-ilma intiza'an." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not just make knowledge disappear just like that. Not that you pick up the Quran tomorrow and the words have just disappeared. He will not just make ilm disappear just like that. وَلَكِنْ يَنْتَزِعُهُ بِأَخْذِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. That as the time of Qiyamah approaches, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take the beloved awliya of Allah, the ulama, the ones who have knowledge, He will take them out of this dunya. They will pass away one after the other. And they will pass away, and there will be no one left. The only type of people that will be left will be those who will be jahil. Who will be jahil and will have no knowledge about Islam. Will have no knowledge about the deen. And they will be giving fatwa based according to their ignorance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the ilm will just not disappear overnight. Not that today you open the Quran and the verses were written, and tomorrow in the morning you open the Quran and the verses have disappeared. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on one night just commands all the angels to pick up every single mushaf and every single book of hadith and take it away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do that. The books will be in abundance. Books will be in abundance. But the people who will actually understand those books will be very few. This is an important message for all of us here. That it is important that we stick to the masajid and we stick to the ulama. We associate ourselves with the masajid. We associate ourselves with the ulama, with the people who have the knowledge. And we ask the ulama to teach us the true knowledge. Because a time will come when you will look for miles and miles and you will not find a person who will be willing to lead you in salah as an imam. And this is one of the signs of qiyamah as well. That in the masjid people will be standing, but they will not find anybody who will come forward to stand in the place of the imam. Because they will have no knowledge as to how to perform salah, as to how to become an imam in the masjid. And towards the end of time, these buildings, the blessed places, the masajid, the houses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worshipped, these will become just buildings. And people will be competing against one another to build a better masjid, a bigger masjid, a more expensive masjid, a masjid which has this many floors and this much capacity and this expensive marble and this expensive carpet. This is what the masajids will become. They will become toys of the rich people. That the people who will be rich will be competing against one another who can build a bigger masjid. But yet, in these masajid will be empty. They will be just there for show. They will be empty. There will be no dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happening in those masajid. And we see this, that in the month of Ramadan, mashallah, the masajid get full. The masajid are used by the Muslim ummah. And the Muslims come for jama'ah. But come the day of Eid, just the day of Eid, like it's not even 24 hours past that Ramadan has left us, and the masjids are empty. Eid Salah is done, that's it. No more masjid. It is as though we were doing it as a burden in the month of Ramadan to come to the masjid, and as soon as the month of Ramadan is gone, we have a sigh of relief. Phew, that's over. I don't have to go to the masjid anymore. Astaghfirullah.